The time is just gone 8 minutes past 9 a.m. As we continue with the show, we stay in the company of our Salam Media listeners on the various platforms, those that are listening to us on audio and also watching us on video this morning. And we also welcome our listeners at One Nation 88.9 FM out of Polokwane on this wonderful day. If you have just tuned in, we welcome you. Jummah Mubarak to one and all. And we have been focusing on humanitarian issues mainly this morning, and still to come on the show. Shortly, we'll be joined by young journalists, and we're talking with Humairaa Mayet from the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. We're talking about protest action that is due to take place 74 years of Al Nakba, and that is going to be taking place tomorrow. It will be a picket at the Israeli embassy out in Pretoria. And later on in the program, our focus is going to be on Ukraine. Now, this is going to be quite interesting because we will be talking with Mufti Murat Suleimanov, who will be joining us and together with an interpreter. And we'll be talking about Ukraine, looking at Muslims in Ukraine from a historical perspective, but more importantly, the impact of the Russian-Ukrainian crisis on the Muslim community out in Ukraine. What are the challenges? And also, more importantly, the month of Ramadan having been over, how have they experienced Ramadan and how have they emerged from the month of Ramadan in these warlike conditions? But right now, we go across to be joined by the PSC's Humairaa Mayet. Humairaa, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jummah Mubarak to you and welcome.
Assalamu alaikum and Jummah Mubarak to you too.
Yes, obviously this protest action, and we will talk about the protest action, but it comes at a time where we've seen 2 days ago the tragic killing of Shireen Abu Akri. And we've seen yesterday the visuals, the funeral when she was buried, huge, in fact, massive amount of people, but also at the same time, as a young journalist, and I'm sure you have been following Shireen, and I'm sure she must have been an inspiration to you for her bravery, for her courage against all adversity, particularly working in dangerous areas. And we know what had happened to her. She was brutally murdered while she was doing coverage out in Jenin.
Yeah, so Shireen Abu Akri has been an inspiration of mine for quite a while now. Some people even described her as the voice of Palestine, and she was a brilliant journalist, trailblazing, an amazing female journalist, which is something not so common that you see in the Middle East. And she's just been an excellent journalist. Her work has been very much centered around exposing the truth, exposing apartheid Israel and the heinous crimes against the Palestinians. And as a journalist, I would say that she has been one of my inspirations. And her death was extremely tragic, shot in the head while wearing a press vest by Israeli soldiers. And even worse is the way the media is portraying her death. Some sites like Forbes, the New York Times, they're saying she just died. Some are also just saying that they don't know if it was her or they don't know if it was Israel or Palestinians who killed her. But we all know, if you look clearly, you can see that it was the Palestinians who were under attack from Israeli fire. So it's very evident as to who killed her, yet it's being reported in a terrible manner.
Yes, Humairaa, in fact, despite the trial, the cover-up, and we've seen also from the Israeli Prime Minister Bennett, who had spoken, about possible Palestinian snipers and, trying to cover up. But the truth at the end of the day will always surface. But the key issue is who is going to hold them accountable. Because, yesterday, when I was watching some of the footage as far as the funeral is concerned, and clearly she was a martyr in more ways than one. And she was a voice for the voiceless. But now that her voice has been silenced, a huge loss, to the people of Palestine, to their cause, and also journalism in general, Humairaa.
Yeah, she's been with Al Jazeera for several years, and I know her focus was Janine, and it's extremely sad that that was where she was attacked and where she passed away. But it definitely will be a massive loss for Palestinian journalists. Like I mentioned, the media is very quick to report Palestine in a negative light, very quick to distort the facts, very quick to lie really about what actually happens. And she was the counter narrative to that. And it's incredibly sad to have lost her. She was only 51 years old. She had quite a career ahead of her. I mean, although she had excellent achievements in the past, it's really sad to know that she's gone. And of course, there are other strong Palestinian voices who can rise to the fore in her, given that now she's gone. But she really was something, and it's really sad that she's gone, unfortunately.
Yes. Now, I think what is important is to continue with her legacy. And we know the mainstream media, we know what their narrative is. It is left on the likes of alternative media, and also at the same time, looking at organizations, the solidarity organizations right across the entire world, and also organizations like we have in South Africa, the PSC, and others who have been fighting the Palestinian cause for a long time to continue with her legacy. And tomorrow, we're talking about this protest action that is taking place, 74 years of Al Nakba. And let's just talk a bit about the protest action that is due to take place tomorrow, Humairaa. And I'm sure the issue of Shireen Abu Akri will obviously feature at the protest as well.
Yes, most definitely. So far around the world, we've seen throngs of people paying tribute to her, gathering to protest her death, just to raise awareness about it, and hopefully we'll do that tomorrow in conjunction with raising awareness about 74 years of Al Nakba. Every year, we typically tend to meet with other Palestine solidarity organizations or the broader community, get together. This year, we've chosen to protest outside the Israeli embassy in Pretoria, where we'll have quite a few speakers. We have quite a few lined up, just to talk generally about what's been happening. After which, we will proceed in a motorcade to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, where we will deliver a memorandum to Zane Dango. Who has offered to receive it. And in this memorandum, we will be calling for the South African government to downgrade the Israeli embassy in South Africa and perhaps even move toward eradicating it completely, and also for the government to adopt BDS principles, which we all know is incredibly important, given that we are a country which comes from a history of apartheid, and as a result of that, we should abhor apartheid everywhere in the world.
Yes, and also I think the key issue here is going to the DIRCO offices, because government and their international relations, as far as Israel is concerned, has come under the radar, has been under scrutiny for a very, very long time, and a number of issues that we know we are not happy with, particularly when it comes to the visa issue with regard to Israeli citizens. We know in the past we've seen many South Africans go across becoming mercenaries, joining the Israeli Defense Force. And so there are a number of issues that our government needs to consider. And this is where pressure needs to be put on the government, but also at the same time making a statement. And I'm hoping that the mainstream media can take notice, because even when one looks at the lack of coverage that had taken place with the murder and the assassination of Shireen Abu Akri in the mainstream media, not only in South Africa, but right across the entire world. These are issues, these are important issues, and this is where protest actions like these obviously help, because it creates that awareness, Humairaa.
Yes, most definitely. So you mentioned the visa issue, and we have included that in our memorandum. It really is something so ridiculous that Israeli citizens can come to South Africa without visas, yet Palestinian citizens or those who hold Palestinian passports are unable to come to South Africa without acquiring a visa. So we hope to raise awareness about that and pressurize the government and request that they allow Palestinian citizens to come into South Africa without visas visas, because as we know, like visas are expensive, they take a long while to process, and that just really makes it very difficult for Palestinians to visit South Africa. And of course, as South Africans, we want to open our doors and our hearts to the Palestinian people. Another issue you raised was that of South Africans serving in the Israeli occupation forces, or as it's formerly known as the Israel Defense Forces, which we would like to bring to the fore and really condemn very strongly, because the fact that South Africans can casually serve in a foreign military which has been accused of not one but numerous crimes against humanity, obviously haven't been formally tried for that, but has been accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and a variety of others, is something that we as Palestine solidarity activists and the government should condemn. Because why should South Africans with South African citizenships be allowed to serve in a foreign military?
Yes, and just finally, just take us through the details of the protest action tomorrow for the benefit of our listeners and those who want to attend.
Okay, so we'll be starting at 9 o'clock, and we're going to be convening at the Israeli embassy, where we have a few speakers lined up from trade unions and from Palestine solidarity organizations, just to deliver messages of support. And obviously, the trade unions to talk about the Clover issue, which, although it's unfortunately died down in the media, is still a very pressing issue. Some workers are still on strike. The issue that Molko, the Israeli company, has taken over Clover is still something that we are trying to raise awareness about. We're pushing for a divestment of Molko and the CBC from Clover. So we're going to convene at the Israeli embassy and spend about 2 hours there, chanting, listening to speakers, things like that. After which there will be a motorcade to the DERCO offices, which are just 10 kilometers away from the Israeli embassy. And then at DERCO, we'll have a few more speakers. I know the PA embassy and a few other Palestine solidarity organizations, and also Dr. Firoz Osman, the author of Shattering Zionist Myths. They'll all be there to deliver messages of support and to encourage people to raise awareness about the struggle, after which a memorandum will be handed over to DERCO officials, and then we'll disperse by 1 o'clock.
Well, Humairaa, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, for taking time out, talking to us here this morning on Al Salam Media. And we wish you all the best, inshallah. Allah accept your efforts. Allah reward you as well, and everybody else. And I'm looking forward to getting feedback from the protest action tomorrow, inshallah. All the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much.
Humairaa Mayet joining us this morning. We're going to go for a quick break. We'll be back.